It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out of my mind. It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. I'm putting you out, trash day, I'm putting you out of my mind. Now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up the house. I'm taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage.
It starts with some beer, so you shouldn't have fear. Two garbage guys with facts, but they both still have tact. It's that time at last for the best damn podcast. It's Can Crusher Day!
And welcome back to another Can Crusher Spotlight. I am your host, Mark Martinez, and this interview that we set up, and I can't even say that I set it up, the Rated X superstar Pat Lupino set this all up for when he went to an MCW event a couple months ago. We've just had to change the schedule around and get everything right and blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, this interview that we did recently with Gia Scott, the greatest damn woman, the two-time MCW Women's Heavyweight Champion, the youngest champion in MCW history, that Gia Scott. This interview is great. The foreshadow, we talk about who she wants to fight, and then she would retire. Boom, call it a day, wrap up her career, and see you later. Also talks about working with ROH a little bit, being in the ring with a WWE legend, and just a great story how she got into professional wrestling. Guys, if you get the chance to see MCW in Joppa, Maryland, get down there and see it. They have a lot of great stars, and we're going to be diving into MCW a little more. We have, feelers out, reachers out with this person, that person. A couple people have committed. We're just getting ready to get scheduling dates ready as we are stockpiled. We are stockpiled with interviews for October, and I'm excited for you. And it starts with Gia Scott, the greatest damn woman, the youngest MCW champion, two-time. And you'll hear that interview, myself along with the Rated X Can Crusher, Pat Lupino, as he jumps in for a little bit. But at first, we're going to head over to Collar and Elbow. Guys, if you need some wrestling apparel, the Collar and Elbow is the place to go. And if you type in Can Crushers, all one word, capital C and capital C, you'll get 10% off your order. Hats, hoodies, tees, anything you need. Collar and Elbow has it, and it's a wrestling brand for wrestling fans. So right after we hear some Al, we'll hand it over to Gia Scott in the interview here on Can Crushers.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand, the wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back to Can Crushers. Mark and Pat back with you, and we are so excited to have the youngest MCW Women's Champion on the show. She is the greatest damn woman in MCW. Welcome to the show, Gia Scott.
Thank you for having me here.
Gia, you are the greatest damn woman down in MCW right now. And we'll get to it as you have a big match coming up this Saturday. But let's bring it all back to the beginning. Who introduced you to wrestling, this great business that, you're a part of and we just want to be part of it?
So it was my uncle who ultimately started me into wrestling because it was something that he would watch like every Monday or every Friday every time I was with him, or he would be watching reruns. Eventually, I just tagged along with him because I thought like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm going to watch along with him. And I just kept watching it and watching and watching with him until like eventually I was able to watch it at home, and my mom didn't really mind me watching wrestling. She just only said like, look, I get it, you like wrestling, but you can only watch it on Fridays. You can't really watch it on Mondays. So I told my mom like, all right, okay, fine, I'll watch it on Fridays. So I became like a SmackDown girl. And if anything, I owe my uncle for everything of getting me into just watching wrestling alone.
So your mom was actually looking out for you on Monday nights because she wanted you to go to school, right? Go to school refreshed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who are some of your favorites on SmackDown?
Oh, boy. Okay. So my aunt told me when I was younger, because I don't remember this, she told me that The Rock was my favorite when I was younger. I absolutely don't remember this, but she said that like, oh yeah, The Rock was your favorite. You used to cheer for him every time, all the time, and every single time he came on. And I'm like, I don't remember this at all.
Well, The Rock's not a bad pick. I mean, he's probably, and when he's the one that started SmackDown.
Yeah.
So, did you like anybody else on SmackDown besides The Rock?
I honestly could not remember off the top of my head, but I do know that when I was watching SmackDown on Friday nights is that I was more interested in the women's matches because I thought it was really cool of how like it's cool to see like a guy wrestle, but to see like a woman wrestle, I thought like, oh, that's really cool, that's really interesting, even if they were like bra and panty matches, Playboy matches, or mud fight matches, or something of that nature. I was more interested in the fact that the women were wrestling instead of like the stipulations that they had. I thought it was really cool. It wasn't really particularly like certain girls I liked. It was more of just like them wrestling in general that I really appreciated while growing up.
Yeah, we'll stay with that for a second, as women's wrestling actually is on the forefront of saving wrestling across the board right now. We talk about Sasha and Bayley and Charlotte, and the list can go on, and you can throw yourself into that too, being so young and everything you've done in MCW. Women are saving wrestling right now, in our opinion. Because your new storylines are fresh compared to the rehashed ones with the guys, don't you think?
Yes, I do. I feel like with like the storylines that I got going on within like MCW, I feel like that they have been like thrown out of like whack to be a little bit crazy, but I feel like as though like me being MCW, it kind of like benefits and it helps, because when I first started at MCW, like the women there, like in 2017, they were considered a joke. Like whenever like a women's match would come on, they would get up, go to the bathroom, go get some food or whatever like that. But now, like fast forward 2 years later now, like some of the like the people are actually staying. They're curious about like what's going on in the match, and like, oh, Gia's coming out. Oh, this person's coming out. Like, all right, cool. I think I'll stick around a little bit longer. And it makes me feel like, wow, okay, how we came from like people leaving like 2 years ago, people are now actually staying. That was like my ultimate goal, is just to have people like to stay and actually watch and like be like, oh man, like did you see that women's match? Like, no, I missed it. Like, man, you missed a really good women's match. It was really good. That's all I ever wanted.
Yeah, and you have some great great story about how you got into wrestling. Doing some research, because I don't know Gia Scott in and out like Pat does going to MCW, but your story about how you got into wrestling, please let Can Crusher Nation know that, as it just hits home with me right now, and once I heard it recently, I began to cry again because it is so touching.
So how I got into the wrestling business is when I don't know why, but when I was around like, let's say 16 or 17, I wasn't happy with my life. I remember telling my mom I'm not happy, and she said why, and I just like, I don't know, I feel like I'm not doing anything. So when I was like 16 or 17, I decided to do modeling. That didn't go through, and I told my mom like, hey, I think I want to do wrestling. So she was like, all right, okay, all right, let's do this. So I ended up going home that day, looking around for many different schools. I contacted so many, and some of them said, like, you got to be 18, you got to be 18. Some of them said you have to have a parent's consent, and, like, most of them were, like, either in a different state or really far from where I lived. And then eventually I came across the MCW school, and prior to coming across to them, my uncle took me to one of their shows, and it's kind of funny because at MCW they have the banner on the wall. It's I think it's called Inferno, and it was the day where Booker T was supposed to be the special I guess you could say meet and greet person. And that was the day when I first discovered MCW. And I remember it was in the green room, and I think it might have been in August. I'm not entirely sure. But I ended up going there. I had a good time, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I was like, I want to do this, because I sat like in the first row, and I could listen to all the sounds and what was going on in the ring. It got me all excited, and I'm like, I want to jump in. I want to do this. Like, this is awesome and whatnot. So eventually I remember that I went to there and I saw the show, and I was like, I went on their website. They had a school, and that they were having people sign up. So I went online, I saw everything, read everything, and then I went to the prices, and it said that if you do everything all together, it is $3,000. And so my heart broke. You're telling a 16, almost 17-year-old girl that she has to pay $3,000 to get into a school. My heart was broken, because I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. So I already started making a plan, like, okay, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do this, and by the time I'm 18, I'll have money, it'll be set. So when I turned, I believe 18, my mom ended up passing away in October, and slowly her anniversary is actually coming up within a few days, which will be on the 1st of October. And so my mom ended up passing away. It was a really bad point in my life, and I remember that I just wanted to like feel whole again. And I remember going over talking to my mom and said that like I want to do wrestling. If I ever did it, like, would you come to my shows and whatnot? And I told her that I really wanted to do MCW. She was like, go for it. And I was like, if I ever win a championship, like my first one there, would you come and see me? Would you be happy? Would you be proud of me? And she was like, yeah, of course I'd be proud of you. So in April, when I turned 18, because my birthday was in February, like right after I turned 18, I went to MCW in April. I gave the money that to one of my coaches, and that money I got from my mom so that she could give to me for wrestling. And I used that in 2017 in April to get started into wrestling.
Yeah, that story itself. Sorry, I actually was taking a big swallow again. You said the anniversary is coming up, and you said you were in a bad place. I completely understand that. With my mom just passing away a couple weeks ago, that it's just you're stuck in a rut, and to know that you're doing this and your mom's behind you. Like, I actually just had my first in-ring announcing job, and I knew mom was there to be pushing me along my side. So when you had your first match, you knew your mother was there watching, though, right?
Yeah. Like even when when I first won the MCW Women's Championship, it was like very bittersweet, because it was going to be my first MCW championship, and I thought back to when my mom said she'd be there and she wasn't, and it's just like, yay, I won it, but like my mom's not here to like actually see it happen. So it was a little bittersweet when I won that day.
Yeah, and you won it at what were you, 19 years old? You faced Brittany Blake.
I think I was still 18.
You're 18. Okay, so you're the youngest MCW Women's Champion ever, right?
Yes.
And then you beat Brittany Blake, which was the longest reigning champion, I believe.
Yeah.
And who actually trained you to get into MCW?
So who trained me getting into MCW was RJ Meyer, who goes by Bruiser, and then there's Dean, who goes by Tyler Hilton. And those two are the ones who trained me into being the person that I am today. Like, I give them every amount of credit that I can give to them starting me off, because they taught me how that, like, because when I first came in, they were like, oh, you're so bright, you're so bubbly, like, you're probably gonna end up like the next Bailey or something. And I'm like, huh? They're like, cause you're like, they're like, you're so nice, you're so polite, and you're calling me sir. And I'm like, and RJ's like, don't call me sir, just call me RJ or Bruiser. Just don't call me sir. It makes me feel old. And I'm like, all right, I'm sorry and everything. But they taught me like how to break out of my shell, and they taught me like little things I wouldn't think of, like while like starting off, because it was like a long road and whatnot. But I wouldn't say that I was one of like the slow learners. I was picking up things a little bit fast and whatnot. And they just taught me like different things, like, oh, this is how you can do this is how you can do that. And they just honestly taught me so many things, so where like I took it all with me. And even if I go back to them, I tell them like, oh, this is what I learned. And I'm like, oh, okay, you could do it this way, or you can do it that way. Because I'll still to this day ask them questions about like, oh, like how can I make this better? How can I make that better? What did you think of my match and everything? Because they have like my best interest, and they want to make sure that I do good.
You also have somebody else in your back pocket that I would think, just, digging into you, that you and your boyfriend probably have some competitions on who puts on a better match of the night.
I wouldn't say that we have competitions about who puts on the better match. It's more about like, oh, did you see this? Did you see my match? Like, what did you think? Or, oh, did you see my match? Like, what did you think? And we'll go, like, we have had discussions where like, oh, if you would have did this and that, I think this would have helped you. And I'll say the same thing to him. And he's really big on watching like older tag matches, like Arn Anderson and Tessa Blanchard. He's that's all I ever hear about when he talks to me. He's like, man, like this Arn Anderson and Tessa Blanchard match was the best. And like, that's all I ever hear about when I talk to him. And if it's about wrestling, because like, actually not that long ago, I ended up having a tag match at the Future of Honor show. And he's like, you know who you could watch, to help you in your tag match? And I'm like, oh, let me guess, Tessa Blanchard and Arn Anderson. He's like, damn right. And I'm like, okay. But I have him in my back pocket for like tag stuff. If I ultimately need help, I'll go to him on it, and how to like structure it properly, because he has that more of that special hands on that kind of stuff.
Well, that's a good thing to have in your back pocket, because he's a brilliant man if he likes the Horsemen. I'll just say it like that. He's a brilliant man.
Love it.
So let's talk about, you just brought up we'll skip ahead, and let's talk about that Future of Honor match that you did have with Lady Frost. What a hell of a match. I did get to watch that. It was a great match. Talk about some of your work during that match.
So, during that match, I was actually, okay, it's not really just during that match. Every single match I've had for the past 2 years, I always get nervous. I always want to do my absolute best. I never want to leave anybody like hanging or anything like that. I will absolutely try my best to like make sure I satisfy the people within like the fans within the match that I usually have. I never want them to be like, oh wow, this girl stinks or this girl sucks. So while going out there, as nervous as I was, I pretended that I wasn't. And I had to make sure that everything logically went well, everything made sense. And like I didn't miss a beat, I didn't miss any cues that I was supposed to do, or anything that was like messed up, because I don't know if something was messed up. I don't know how I would get it back on track. Like sometimes when I wrestle, sometimes I black out, not like in a bad way, but I will usually end up forgetting what I do in that spare of that moment. And during the match, everything, I believe, to me, everything went well. I know there could have been things that I ultimately could have did better, but ultimately I am very proud of that match. And I think it's just bigger and better things to go from there.
You wrestle with a lot of big names so far.
Like who? Who do you consider big names?
Well, Madison Reigns. You guys wrestled that three-way.
Yeah, that is true.
Controversial ending, but you ended up getting the win. Do you like being a heel better than being a face on when you wrestle?
So when I first started off wrestling, I was a face. I ended up facing Angelina Love as a face. And then I think once we got to Spring Fever is when I teamed up with Joe Keys versus Adam Rose and Rosa Mendez. That's when, after that, I think that's when they decided that, okay, we're going to make you the bad guy. And first starting off as a face, it felt awkward because I didn't know what to necessarily do or how to be as a face. Like, it's different when you see people do it on, like, Raw or SmackDown or NXT, but it's different when you actually have to do it. So when first starting off, I was just like, I don't know how to do this. And then when they're like, all right, we want you to be a bad guy, I'm like, okay, I really don't know how to do this. I was really, like, scared to, like, be the bad guy because, like my coach just told me, I was such, like, really nice girl and whatnot, so they would think that I'd be this great good guy. But it took a couple of months for me to be comfortable being the bad guy, and I honestly had to grow into finding things on being, like, trying to be this good bad guy. And while trying to, like, figure out, like, who I should be or what I should be, I ended up doing a little bit of research. I ended up going back into like the vault of MCW, and I was trying to figure out, like, who did I hate, like, when they were a bad guy. So in MCW they had this woman named Amber Rodriguez, and I remember when I first, like, saw her, I really hated her, and I don't know why. I ended up hating her because I felt as though she was, like, really good at the job she was doing. So I looked up her, I watched a couple of her matches. I remember that I thought, like, Charlotte was really good, so I ended up watching Charlotte, ended up watching Asuka. I ended up, I think, watching Bianca Belair. I ended up watching Tessa Blanchard. I still watch Tessa Blanchard to this day. But I ended up just, like, trying to pick out things that I like about them, things that I didn't, and just making it my own. And from there, I feel as though I am doing my job as being, like, I feel like I'm doing a good job as being the bad guy because I'm comfortable with it now, and I don't feel awkward. I'm not rushing or anything like that. I feel like everything is just mellowing out. Now, if you ask me if I'd be a really good guy, I don't know yet because it's been so long since I've been a good guy. To be honest, every single time I've wrestled, I've always been, like, the bad guy. So, I don't know.
There's people that need to be a heel their entire wrestling career. And I'm not going to say I did see your first match as a face or, you know, a couple or whatever, but you truly are a heel. You also stole our thunder because we kind of compare you to somebody, and your boyfriend's right on the money. We said you are Telly Blanchard over and over. The way you talk, your mannerisms in the ring, even Tessa as well. You know, if you're Telly, you're Tessa. If you're Tessa, you're Telly.
Yeah.
You are exactly who you need to be, and you run with it. You're so sassy, is the word.
He pushes kids out of the way, Mark, going down the aisle.
Oh my God, like, I don't mean to be so sassy. It just comes off because I know, like, I don't know. It's like I'll watch Bianca, and I think she's really sassy along with Tessa, and like those are the main two I ultimately watch. And I know like if you look at when I first had like the blue hair, the blue lips, and everything, I was inspired by that from Bianca, because at first I was thinking to myself like she looks really pretty with all this like nice little pink or blue or black or red lipstick with like the sparkles on it. And I was like, I wonder if I can do that, because like I don't know if it'll look right on my skin and whatnot. So I just decided like, okay, well, MCW's blue and the title's blue, so why not do blue? So I got that inspiration from Bianca, and like the attitude, I combined that with Bianca and Tessa, because Tessa's like really sassy. When she first came to like Impact, she just had this chip on her shoulder, and I'm just like, that's what I need. I need to have this kind of chip on my shoulder to prove to people like I'm not playing around. Like I'm here to claim everything that said that I wouldn't be able to claim. Like now you see me in a different light, and it's like a complete 180 because there are these photographers that came to the MCW show, and they're called Jay Lee people. And I remember they go by Antoine and Christina. And I remember them telling me when we were in, I think, the Carroll County High School, they said that they were really proud of me. And I'm like, why? And they're like, every time you go out there, it's like a complete 360. Like when we meet you in person, like you're like this nice, nice, caring girl. But when you're out there, you're so sassy. Like you're just really sassy. And I'm like, oh my bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They're like, no, you're doing a good job. Like keep it up. Like we like it. Like it's awesome and everything. So like just hearing that from them made me feel really good that I was going in a good right direction.
Is there something backstage that when you walk out of the curtain? Because when Pat was telling me when he met you when the Briscoes were down in MCW, and he's like, you have to have Gia on the show. You have to have Gia on the show. I'm like, sure, let's make it happen. Schedule it, this, that, and the other. He's like, you're so sweet. But then you come out the curtain, and again, you're dastardly, you're sassy. What switches once you come out of that curtain? Because even right now, I want to jump through the computer and give you a hug because you sound like the biggest sweetheart. But
thank you.
You see your matches, and I'm going to throw it out there that you're a bitch sometimes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am. I truly am. Like the switch happens legit when I walk past that curtain. I never want to be that person to where like the switch is on all the time, because if the switch was on all the time and I was Gia all the time, I don't know what I would do with myself, because I can't keep that up but so long. And like the switch happens, like once I'm past that curtain, I go back to being the regular old me. And yes, I'm a bitch when I go past that curtain. I really am. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. But like I know that I have to make that switch, because if I came out and I was like nice, sweet, and what I am now, I feel as though people wouldn't believe me. But even still, like even if I was this like good guy, I would still keep the sassy attitude, because that's just me. I feel as though within wrestling, because some people have like a hard time trying to figure out who they are, and for me, it was more of like I wanted to be treated like not as a joke. So my coaches helped me with that. My promo teacher helped me with that, because they asked me one day, they were like, all right, actually, it was actually Dean who asked me this. He was like, okay, I know you're this nice girl, you're sweet and everything, gumdrops, rainbows, whatever. I know you're all of that, but like, what is you behind all this? And I'm like, I don't know. He was like, what is there, like, something you would want to be if, like, you know, outside, not outside of wrestling, but like, within wrestling, something that like you can't do in your everyday life. And I was just like, I wish sometimes I could break the rules. I wish sometimes I wouldn't have to be so nice because, my mom installed in me, like, if you treat people how you want to be treated, they will treat you the same way in exchange. And that's something that stuck with me. So I've always been polite to people. I've always been nice. I've always like made sure I try to treat them with the same respect that I would want back. And so my coach Dean, he was like, okay, well, we'll go with this. And so I told my promo teacher, his name's Nat, I told him about it, and he was like, okay, then if that's the case, then we're just gonna make you cut heel promos until, you know, you start feeling comfortable and everything. And so we just went from there. And then like, I asked him like certain ways or certain things that I should do. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And my biggest like problem or biggest fear is that if I would go over the top and I would, like do something that was like, oh, I think that was a little too extreme or something like that. And I wanted to make sure that I really worked in like facial expressions or having emotions in my promo, because I feel like if you don't have emotions in your promos, you're not going to be able to reach out to some people. And the promos that I cut, yeah, sure, they may be included into wrestling, but they're actually part of me. And I'll bring it to the table. Like, for instance, earlier in the year when we had MCW anniversary and I had to cut a promo about how I wasn't on the show, I feel like that was one of my strongest promos. And just a side note, I only had to cut that in 2 takes because
Nice.
my coach was so proud of me. He was like, oh, that was really good. I just want to cut one just for good luck, like just for good measure. And I did that promo, and I felt like I was like, for some odd reason, I was actually getting angry in my promo. And sometimes the feeling would just come out of nowhere, and I'll just end up feeling it. I'll just go off of it. And all that happened, and I was like really, like when I walked away from the camera, I was actually angry, and I had to calm myself down. Like, why am I so angry? Like, I'll actually get my emotions invested in it because I want people to like see my promo and I'm like, wow, Gia's a bitch. So
Yeah.
I'll just try to put every amount of energy I can into any promo that I'll do.
Yeah, your promos are spot on all the time. I love them. You guys are teamed up with ROH. When
Yes.
they come in with you guys, like the mixed tag, when you teamed up with Joey Keys and you faced Adam Rose and Rosa, you in the backstage pick their ears and ask them questions. You get to talk to them at all, like when the Briscoes came. You sort of chatting with.
So I shouldn't be doing this, but it happens because like the real me comes out. I get a little nervous talking with like the Briscoes, or if like I end up seeing like anybody that like Shane Taylor, like actually he's a really nice guy. I get over my head thinking like, oh, should you talk with him? Should you say hi to him? Like, should you really say hi to him? This is Shane Taylor. Come on now. Like, and then like I'll see him walking and I'm like, oh crap, just say hi, get it over with. And then like I'm like, but what if he doesn't want to say hi to you? Like, no, just say hi to him. And then I'm like, hi, I'm Gia. It's awful. Like, I know in this business that it goes a long way to say hi to a person, because like if you don't, it'll come off as rude, and I need to be better at it. And it's not because I don't want to say hi to anybody. It's just I get so far into my head thinking like they don't really want to say hi to you. They probably don't really care about you, but like I don't want them to think like, oh, like Gia doesn't want to say hi to me. She has like this chip on her shoulder. If anything, it's because I'm nervous to say hi to people, because I think like they don't want to spend their time out of their day to say hi to me. So I'll just probably won't go say hi, but I'm working on that. But with the Briscoes, I did say hi to them, and I didn't really say too much to them because I was nervous. But I ended up watching the show with them, and they're really cool. When I first like met them, I thought that that the stuff they do is just all in character, but no, like the Briscoes are actually them. They're like them on screen and they're them off screen. So I found that like really interesting, and I loved it, honestly. Like I was sitting next to the couch, and I think I was next to Mark, and he's just eating barbecue sunflower seeds next to me, and he was asking me about like when did I start to get into wrestling, how long MCW's been open for, and I believe MCW's been open since like 99, 98, I think.
I believe so.
It's been open since I was born. So I asked him about that, and he asked about like when did MCW get like the arena out in Joppa, and I think it was in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. But he was asking us questions about that and whatnot. But they're like really cool. It's just I was not expecting them to be them on and off TV.
I love that story because you just marked out right there. So you truly are a mark for wrestling yet, right?
Yeah, aren't we all?
Well, yeah.
Yep.
So let's shift gears a little bit and promote what's coming up this Saturday. Then we have some more questions for you too. So this Saturday, October 5th, it's a tribute to the legends, and there's some legends on this card. Devon Dudley's going to be there, Tito Santana, Joey Ryan, Kane, and somebody you're going to be in a match with, Renee Michelle. There's a three-way match between you, Ariana Palmer, Renee Michelle, and yourself. You going for the title and hopefully getting it for the third time.
Maybe, and then I'll be tied up with, I believe, Renee.
Which then you should set up a one-on-one match. Once you win the title, you should then set up a one-on-one match to see who the best damn woman is in MCW. I'm just pulling Booker right now.
Ooh. I'm like really looking forward to the match on October 5th next Saturday, because like it's gonna mean a lot to me. Not because like the title is on the line, but I mean like it's awesome because the title is on the line. But when I first started MCW, I ultimately always wanted to face Renee, but she ended up going to do the Mae Young Classic, so I never got that opportunity. So I feel like fate worked its way around. So we're back at where I wanted it to be, and I feel really happy because there were other people I wanted to face in MCW whenever I got the opportunity to join the school. One of them being I know she goes by multiple names now. Kimberly, there we go. I always wanted to face her too. She went by Abby Lath in WWE or NXT.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah. So I always wanted to face Kimberly. I always wanted to face Mandy Leone, and I've always wanted to face Renee Michelle. So I'm crossing off one of them on my bucket list.
And let's stick with the women of MCW for a while, because I bet you there's maybe one or two more that you would like to get in the ring with that came from MCW. Maybe a Mickie James, maybe a Melina.
Oh, I would love to. I actually, speaking of Melina, if we want to continue the bitch streak that I was on, when I was MCW Women's Champion, we had our first ever like match where Melina faced Victoria. And so during that match, I came out like the bitchy person I was, interrupted it, and told, I think, Victoria that she was an old hag, and how Melina left MCW and now she's not on the mountain anymore, so she doesn't mean anything. So I ended up taking a widow's peak and also taking Melina's move as well, which I deserved. I deserved it. I was being bitchy. But I would love to one day. I think I heard, don't quote me on this, but I think I heard that Victoria, I think this was Victoria's last year of wrestling. I'm not entirely sure.
It is.
I think okay. So that's a little saddening because I would love to face Victoria. I would also love to face like Mickie James or Melina. I think that'd be awesome. I'd be really nervous about everything because I always want to do well within wrestling. So trying to prove to them that like I can hang with them, like I can go toe to toe with them, I think that'd be really cool.
There's somebody else on the Night of Superstars roster meet and greet that is a little Gia you hated. I heard this in a past interview because they scared the bejesus out of you. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, why do you hate Kane so much?
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't say I hate Kane. It's just, okay, so I think this was in December of 2014, I believe. And so I think I was 15 then. I think I was 15 going on 16. So what happened was that my uncle, me, and I think 3 of his other good friends, we all traveled to go to DC and watch the Raw live event. So my uncle asked his friend, his name was Blake, and he was like, hey, do you know if Kane's gonna be here tonight? He was like, I don't know, but prepare yourself. And I'm like thinking in my head, like, prepare yourself? Why would they need to prepare themselves? What's Kane gonna do? So my uncle is looking over at me, and I'm looking over at him. He's like, you ready to see Kane? Because I think they put up the graphic that Kane was going to come out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm excited. Like, I'm having fun. So as soon as, like, I think one of the competitors come out, all you hear is this big burst of fire. And it felt like when you first open an oven and it's like really hot, and I felt like my lips were peeling off a little bit, and it scared me because the burst of flames came out of nowhere. And then when he gets like to the ring and he like sets the ring posts on fire just for a little bit, that just, oh, it was awful. I was mostly scared of his entrance being live, because when you're on the TV, you're like, oh, that looks really cool. He summoned fire, and like he summoned fire again. But like being in person for it, it frightened me because it was like legit opening an oven, and I couldn't stand it. I was like, my lips are peeling off, like the fire is everywhere. My uncle was just laughing hysterically. He was just dying. It was awful for me because it frightened me during that time.
I'm dying laughing right now over that story. I love it. I really love it.
It was awful. Like legit, I felt the fire, and it felt like it was cooking my lips, and I was just, I had to hold like my hands over my ears. Like I was frightened, but I was excited, but I was mostly frightened.
Do you watch anything now? Do you watch WWE or NXT or anything like that?
Yes, I still try to watch. I watch mostly NXT when I get the chance, because I normally don't watch TV a lot, so I'll watch like what's going on currently in NXT, and also because I need to see what Bianca Belair is doing by any chance, because she's one of the persons that helped me into being the bitchy character that I am today. So I'll watch some of her stuff on NXT, and I think I currently watch the Fatal 4-Way that was going on, and Candice LeRae won the Fatal 4-Way. And so I'll watch that a little bit. I'll watch like some of the things that are going on, like Roderick Strong like won the North American Championship, and so they're all now undisputed. But yeah, I mostly watch NXT now.
Yeah, NXT is so hot, especially with going 2 hours now, and you're going to see LeRae against Baszler this weekend. So, not this weekend, actually tonight.
It's tonight.
Let's talk about you in the future. I know, like we said, MCW worked with ROH. Is that your next goal? And then what are your goals for, like, the next 5 years?
Oh, boy. Because, like, I don't really have like a plan for the next 5 years. I honestly didn't even have a plan for the first 2 years of my wrestling career. I honestly ultimately my goal is to be my name be amongst one of the people that are of the great. Like people say Charlotte's the great, Becky, Sasha, and Bailey are incredible. And then you hear Tessa Blanchard, who's really incredible, and any other names that are going out around. I just one day wanted to be one of the women where they're like, oh, like Gia's like one of one of the best women's around and whatnot, because I believe I can be one of the greatest women's wrestlers around, and that's like my ultimate goal. And for me, I have to like sometimes take a step back and realize like how far I've made it within 2 years, because if you would have told me when I first started wrestling that like, oh, in 2 years you're gonna be at the Ring of Honor dojo, you're gonna be training there, you're gonna be eventually maybe one day, let's say in your third year, you're gonna be actually on the Women of Honor roster, I'd probably look at you and laugh like really crazy because I wouldn't believe you. And to say that like I'm in my second year of wrestling, next year will be my third year, and to say that like, oh, like within 2 years I made it into the Ring of Honor dojo, that's actually like really impressive for that just being just 2 years already. And like my next goal is to eventually make it onto the Women of Honor roster, because I want to add something on there that I believe no one else can add. And if you think about it for a hot second, there is nobody like me on that roster. And I feel like I can add something to it. So one day, hopefully, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I want to be added on to their roster.
So much came out of that right then and there, but you are exactly right. No disrespect. I mean, let's just say 2 years, because you're not at that third year yet, that you're in this business, two-time champ, you were on Future of Honor. There's people 10, 15 years in the making, Gia, that haven't even sniffed what MCW has done for you. And you're all in. Sorry, the pun. You're really all in, and they're hanging your hat on you, saying run with this women's division, right?
Yeah. It's just, it makes me feel happy of like how far I've come in 2 years, and I know I have many years to go on, but it's just, I'm really proud of what I've accomplished within 2 years, and I know that I can accomplish a lot more, and I'm just really excited and whatnot, because like I had the fortunate chance of wrestling for Ring of Honor. It wasn't televised or anything like that. It was more of like a dark match. And I ended up wrestling. I ended up having a tag, and I also ended up having a singles match. And during like the tag match, I felt okay. It felt good, and I did the job that needed to be done. But when like the last night that we had, when because we were on a tour, I ended up having a singles match, and it was amazing. It made me feel like really great, and I love when I get like a wrestling high, when like everything in the world of wrestling just aligns perfectly, and I feel super happy. And I was really grateful for that match, because it made me realize like, okay, I can do this, because I think during the tour I felt like really down after the first match, because I felt like I didn't do my best. And I'm always like trying to live up to my expectation of like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to make this good, you got to do that good. And you just got to prove people that you're good enough and you're worth it. So when I got to the singles match, I felt really good. I felt like I proved my worth in that, like all the time that my coaches invested in me, all the time that I've been in the dojo, it's not a waste.
Right. And you just ran with it. So that's awesome. I didn't even know that you had, let's dub them dark matches for Ring of Honor. Congratulations then. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So you're still young. We have 3 kind of hard questions as we wrap it up, and if you think they're hard, I'm joking. So you're still young within the business, but you're so talented and mature in the business. The next I don't know, young girl comes knocking at your door and saying, "Hey, Gia, what advice can you give me that nobody gave you because I want to be a professional wrestler?" What do you tell them?
So if someone came to me about that, because I usually do give some of like the guys advice and whatnot, how to help them a little bit to make things a little bit easier for them at MCW, I tell them that like everyone tells them this, but I would try to give them like my backstory of what have happened to me while I was in MCW. One thing that I was told is that in wrestling, you're going to have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. There are going to be times where, like, you're going to be uncomfortable with, like, certain things you do. Like, for instance, I was uncomfortable or nervous, rather, talking in front of, like, a big crowd. And I think that night when I faced Brittany Blake and it was setting up for New Year's Mayhem, where I went to face I believe, former Women of Honor champion Kelly Klein. That was my first time talking in front of a crowd. Actually, no, I'm sorry, second time, because I did that. The first time is when I was with Joe Keys and we faced Adam Rose and Rosa Mendez. That was my first time, and I was nervous for that too. But I feel as though now if one of my coaches are like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be talking in front of the crowd," I'd be fine with it, because the fact that I've had time to, like, you know, time over the years to cut promos and whatnot, I've got comfortable with promos. So if I had to talk in front of a crowd, I'm fine with it. But one thing I would tell them, that you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, with that being an example. Also, I usually tell the guys that promos are your best friend, because you get to find out who you are and who you want to be. And also tying into that is that you need to ultimately find out who you want to be within wrestling, because if you just go into it thinking that, like, oh, I'll figure it out along the road. I mean, some people do figure it out along the road, but like, it's better for you to figure out who you are before you start actually getting on the shows, and then people are going to want to like see you booked here or booked there. It makes life a lot easier, because I remember when I first was starting out, I thought I had an idea of who I wanted to be. Like, I had like a starting plan, but I didn't know how to execute it or plan it properly into being who I am right now. So it was like, it was things that I had to do, I had to try. But I think when they decided to put me as heel, that's when I started finding out who I wanted to be and who I wanted to mold myself into and whatnot.
I am shocked to hear you say that you were uncomfortable talking in front of a crowd, because just through the podcast, I mean, you're well spoken, and then interviews and promos that I've seen, like in-ring stuff on YouTube, and you know, it's all over the place. You again, I'll go back to sassy. So that sassiness rolls off that you'd never know that you were scared at one point. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like it's just I honestly do get nervous, and I know a couple of guys that get nervous like before they walk out. It goes along with wrestling, but like I used to get super nervous whenever we have promo class. I don't get nervous cutting promos like during the show anymore. I used to at first, but I don't get nervous anymore. I used to get nervous speaking in front of people. I think the third time I cut like a promo in front of people was down in PCW, where I was supposed to be facing Rosa Mendez, but she ended up getting an injury. So I ended up facing Zoe Sky instead. And on not that day, but like I think a show prior, I went down and I cut an in-ring promo, and it was one of my favorites because I honestly was nervous, and because I was so nervous, I was forgetting the stuff that I was supposed to say, and majority of it went off the fly. And I think that's how I prefer to do my promos, because I don't like when my promos are like scripted, or it like if someone tells you like, okay, we need you to say this, 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 and more of this and that, and less of this and this and that. It doesn't feel like it's coming across the heart. So every single time when I do a promo, it comes from the heart, and I feel like I can get more of a feel out of it that way. and I can execute it better versus like if because I know some of the guys, they worry about at MCW like, oh, I gotta cut the promo like this, I have to say this, and you can sometimes tell if they've been practicing for like days and whatnot just to make this promo perfect, because if you make a perfect promo, there's like usually some things they'll forget to say and they sound like robotic. So I usually try to help the guys out with that, saying like just cut a promo from the heart. I promise you it'll sound like a lot better, because like they'll sound like a robot. But yeah, I was ultimately nervous for promos in general, but now I've conquered that fear and I feel a lot better.
You're reading my notes, by the way. I'm just saying that because I was going to say the same thing. If you practice a promo for so long, you can tell that it's practice. You don't get that raw emotion. So
yeah,
nice. The hard question of the day. Your dream match. This is, years down the line.
Okay.
All right, so who do you want it to be against? Where do you want it to be? And what special stipulation in the match?
So I've always said to people who've asked me about this, even just like on rides home. So I don't know about the stipulation and where I want it to be, because I don't travel a lot. But I want maybe like 2 years from now, I'll come to you about like the place I want it to be. But the person I really want to face the most out of everybody, and it doesn't really come much as a shocker, but it would be Tessa Blanchard.
Right.
It would be her.
I knew that was going to be the answer. I did know that was going to be the answer once we talked through the whole podcast here. How about, let's say, Madison Square Garden, and I would think an Iron Woman match between you two would be amazing. I really do.
Woo! But, yeah, that would be awesome. Like, I remember that I was joking with a friend, and they asked me that question, and they said, if you ended up facing, like, who would you want to face? And I'm like, if I ended up facing Tessa Blanchard, I just quit wrestling right then and there. Like, my job is done. I got what I wanted out of wrestling. But all jokes aside, like, I would love to wrestle her, because, like, just to be able to face the woman that I, in my wrestling career growing up, right now, just, like, watching and seeing and, like, idolizing her and just trying to, like, get as much as I can from her, but then making it my own. I'm like, it'd be really good and great just to one day face her, and I'll be like, okay, this is it. I've done everything that I needed to do in my wrestling life. Like, I can now retire in peace. But yeah, I would love to face her one day.
Gia, I hope you don't face Tessa Blanchard for about 30 years then, because if you would face Tessa Blanchard and you would leave wrestling right after that match, you would actually hinder wrestling, because what you're doing right now is undeniable, unbelievable, flawless, however you want to say it. You cannot have that match right now then, because you'll hurt us fans more than the satisfaction that you'll get wrestling Tessa Blanchard.
I would not, if I did end up wrestling Tessa within, like, let's say 2 or 3 years, I would not retire, but I would love to face her regardless, because it's just, I don't know why. I just, like, if I had a pedestal, I'd put Tessa at the top, Bianca at great second best, and Shayna Baszler at third, because I think they're really badass chicks. And I think they're, like, just super awesome. But I would love, like, one day, like, down the line, I would like to face all three of them. But I would love to face Tessa any day.
Fatal 4-way. We're going to book it. All right. I know you have a lot to do this early morning. Where else are you going, though? What else is Gia Scott doing besides MCW? Are you branching out a little bit? What's else up?
I don't think I am. I would love to branch out and whatnot, but also, like, traveling expenses, I do have to take that in consideration, which is why most of the times, like, I'll stick with stuff that are, like, close to MCW along that line. I did go to Angel Gate, like, a couple of months back. I do go to, like, PCW, which is down in West Virginia, and whatnot. But I think those are mainly the only three. Oh, actually, I did wrestle in Delaware. It was like DCW. I did wrestle there a couple of months ago. But other than that, I think that's ultimately about it.
Right. When you have a stranglehold on MCW as pretty much the woman there, Ariella Palmer is just gonna be laid waste here this coming Saturday. So.
Yep.
All right, tell everybody else about your social media and where they can follow you so you can get all the crazy Can Crusher Nation watching you even more.
So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter by the Gia Scott. And in that, on the social media, you'll be able to see me how I was before. It'll be labeled as me being the real Gia Scott. I don't know if there's any other fake ones because I've heard that goes around a lot. But you can follow me on the at the Gia Scott on Instagram and Twitter.
Nice. All right, Gia, thank you for coming on Can Crushers today, and I will make sure that I get down to MCW. I was hoping for the October 5th one, but somebody actually booked us ahead of time, so I will come when you are champion and celebrate with you then.
Okay.
So let's make that a date. I want to go to MCW and have Gia Scott, the 3-time women's champion for MCW. Like we talked about in the interview, that's going to tie a record for MCW. And Gia is somebody that should break this. Let's pause for a second. I always like pausing. You guys hear this all the time. I don't want to see Gia against Tessa. I mean, deep down in my heart of hearts, I think it would be an awesome match. But I think she is dead serious. If she fights Tessa Blanchard, she's done. She's done what she wanted to do, wrap it up, call it a career. But she's so young, and she is pushing that next level of, let's say, women's revolution, however you want to dub it. She's pushing that next level. Guys, if you've not seen any Gia Scott matches, get on YouTube, go to an MCW event, just follow her. She is groundbreaking. She is just taking that next level, as I said. I know repetitive, but that's just where it is with her. She's on the cusp of making history, and ROH is going to be so lucky to have her. It's amazing. Guys, as I step back again, as I always say at the end of these spotlights, if you want to hear somebody else in the MCW locker room, send them our way. Reach out to, say, Brandon Scott, Dante, Portia, anybody in the MCW locker room. Gia's kind of going to help, be a liaison for Can Crushers to get us all going. Or anywhere across the world, shoot them a message, shoot us a message. Somehow just get it going. I'll reach out. We'll talk to anybody because, as I always say, I mark out just as much talking and learning backstories that I don't know about. I love this part of Can Crushers and bringing it to you, the fans, Can Crusher Nation. Guys, again, thanks to our sponsor, Collar and Elbow. Without Al Snow and Chad Miller helping us out here, bringing us the OVW stars that he does, and just reaching out and sending us in different directions, it's awesome. But again, thank you, Gia Scott, for coming on Can Crushers. I know this will be an interview that wraps back around here in the near future as she's champion many, many more times. Guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you Sunday with our recap, and we also will have our Hell in a Cell predictions. Thanks, guys.